Hello everyone, welcome to our object-oriented programming concept series. This is our first video where we will look into the programming and different programming paradigms so that it will act as a base for understanding the object-oriented programming in depth in our next videos. So let's start.
What is programming? It is a process of creating a set of instructions that computers follow to perform a specific task or solve the problems. Right? So, for example, if you tell computer or give an instruction to computer to print hello world, computer will understand that and print the hello world, right? So these instructions which you are giving, like print hello world, is also known as a code, right? And this code can be written in a different programming languages that computers can interpret and execute, right? Now writing this code or writing these instructions to solve the specific problem, that process is called as a programming. Let's understand the programming paradigms. Now we understood the programming, but what are the different ways to do the programming, right? So the paradigms means basically it is the different styles or the ways to organize or structure our code, right? It is not a programming language. It is basically how we structure our code, right? Or the instructions for solving the problems. So there are many programming paradigms created, and each of them help in solving the different problems. The programming languages aren't always specific to just one paradigm. For example, that if there is one language which was supposed to follow a specific programming paradigm, and later some of the features were added so that it can also support other ways or other style of structuring the code, then it means that it can support that paradigm as well, right? So that's why the programming language are not strictly specific to just one paradigm, right? So these are the main types of programming paradigms. There are many types, but we'll focus on this main. So there are two main base paradigms. One is imperative and one is declarative. Under imperative, there are two types. One is procedural and another one is object-oriented programming. We will focus on object-oriented programming in upcoming videos in more detail. And declarative has a three, like functional, logic, and database query languages. Now let's try to understand the imperative programming. So imagine you are giving a step-by-step instructions to your friend how to make a tea. What you will tell, you will just give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the instructions. Boil the water, add tea leaves, pour the tea to cup, add sugar, milk, stir it, and drink it. Right now, you are giving a step-by-step instruction. So this is called as an imperative program. This is exactly a where you tell to computer that exactly how to do something, right? You need to solve one problem, then you give a step-by-step logic to computer or instruction to computer, and computer just follows it as a recipe, like your friend doing here, right? So for example, you need to find a sum of numbers from 1 to 5, right? You will write the steps. First you will initialize total sum with 0, and then you will create a loop to iterate through 1 to 5, and to you keep on adding the numbers 1 to 5 to that total sum, and then print. You are telling computer to reach to this output 15 by specifying the steps, right? You are giving how part, right? So this is called as imperative programming style, right? The next type is procedural programming. It is a subtype of imperative programming where basically you only define the step-by-step execution for solving the particular problem, the how part. But instead of just giving the step-by-steps, right, each step is treated as a function or procedure, right? So here you can see the same making tea problem is here, but you can see the different steps are now created as a functions here, right? Like boil water, add tea leaves, and in each function you can write your own logic, right? Different logic. So you can see that the main logic is making tea only, right? Main work is making tea, but the steps now are kind of made as a separate function, right? And that steps are invoked in a step-by-step manner from main function or the main problem which we want to solve, right? Now, if we see, the more focus is around the procedures, right, or the dividing the logic into the specific procedures or function, right? Now, it is a subtype of imperative because here also we are telling the steps to solve the problem to computer, and but the steps are defined more clearly using some functions or procedures. Right? You can see the functions or procedures here. The code is modular, like functions can be reused, like boil water. You can reuse it in some other, let's say, problem, like making an egg, right? Or boiling an egg, right? So it can be reused. It is good for small to medium projects. Why, we will understand it in the next slide. But the focus of this programming paradigm is that treating your step as a function, right? And the programming languages which have this, which follow this style of coding is C, Pascal, etc. Right? Now the next is object-oriented programming. This is also a subtype of imperative programming, where you tell about exactly the step-by-step instruction to computer, or the logic basically step-by-step. So now let's extend the existing example of making tea to allow for making different types of teas, right? Like black tea, green tea, herbal tea, etc. Now what will happen in procedural programming? We saw that we define the functions like boil water, all those things, right? For different types of teas, it is possible that we end up copying the code for the same code, or because we want, some of the teas might have different functionality for, let's say, add tea leaves or add milk, something like that, right? So a different type of tea might have additional steps, right? Now how this can be solved? So object oriented programming solves this by defining the tea as an entity. So basically, like treating it as a class or template or entity, and create an object of that class for different types of tea, right? Like herbal tea, green tea, different objects will be created, and they will have their own logic, or they will pass their own properties, right? So class contains the properties of entities like fields, like sugar, milk for entity tea, and it provides the methods or functions to operate on the fields, like prepare the tea. Now you can see this fields can be different when we create object for different teas, right? Sugar, milk, right? Let's understand that in next example. So let's say this is a class T, right? You can see we are passing a different properties fields here, and these are the class fields basically, right? The fields which are the properties of the class, the properties of the T, right? Now, and we have a prepare function also, where we define the steps, a small prepare function, and depending on these fields, we can change the logic of the function, right? Now, class is just a type or template to define a properties and functions to act on those properties. Now, when we create an object, right, you can see for black tea, we created a T object, but we are passing the different property values, right? These properties will get changed based on this, the type of T object we are creating, right? So, and we call the prepare, right? So, object is actual variable of type class. For example, to understand in more detail, when we say int a equal to 5, int is a type and a is the actual variable of that type. Similarly, class is a type, and when we create a variable of class type, it is called as an object, right? So class and int are basically a type, and a is basically here variable, which is like object. Here black t is the object and t is just a class, right? We're creating a object of class type. Now, because we separated this and created object for different teas, we can see the output is different for different tea. For example, when we say black tea prepare, we are not seeing milk here because that is how we handled here. When we say prepare green tea, you can see there is no milk and there is no sugar also. Right? So this is how we separated the logic very easily using the class. Right? Now you can see that the code becomes very reusable. Like we don't need to copy the code for each type of tea. It is organized, like uh, it is neatly separated for different type of teas. It is flexible. If you want to add one more type of tea, it can be easily added by just instantiated the object or creating the object of, let's say, tea in instead of green we can say herbal, right? And define some logic changes here, right? So that is what the object-oriented programming. We'll understand about the object-oriented programming in much more detail in upcoming videos. Declarative programming. Right? Till now we understood about the imperative programming. Now declarative programming. So imagine you want a pizza, you go to restaurant and tell the waiter, give me the pizza, right? Or order the pizza. So you didn't tell the chef how to make the pizza. You just ordered it. You just declared what you want, right? So the restaurant or the chef takes care of the rest, like preparing the pizza. The chef takes care of it, right? You just need to order the pizza. So this is exactly a declarative programming. You specify what you want, but not how to do it. In imperative programming, we used to define the steps to come up with the solution. But here we just define, or we just ask, this is the output we need, or this is what we want to achieve. You just specify what you want, not the how part, right? We'll understand this in next slide. So uh, let's understand more with this example. In the imperative, where you want to do data filtering, right? You iterate over all the customers' data. If age greater than 18, you prepare the result and you print the result, right? Now, this is the imperative. Now, in case of declarative, you just call select star from customers where age greater than 18. So the same data is stored in database. You are reading here and doing all the filtering, and but the languages like SQL provide you the way to just declare what you want. Right? You don't need to define the steps to check each row. SQL takes care of the processing internally, right? So that is why the HTML, CSS, SQL are good examples of declarative programming, or following the declarative programming, where in HTML you just define the HTML element. Internally, it will handle that processing. SQL, you just define the SQL commands. Internally, the logic will happen. The processing will happen, right? Uh, Database query language programming, this is a subtype of declarative programming. So it provides the efficient way to fetch the data from massive data storage, right? Like SQL, you just define, let's say, select star from customers table, right? You don't need to worry about the complexity of how the data is fetched, and it is hidden behind the query language, right? So you just need to tell what, how part is taken care by that SQL processing internally, right? So in e-commerce product search, where you search the products, right, is actually internally using the database queries. Right? It's a declarative programming style, where you can fetch the data using SQL or database query languages for data analytics or report generation as well. And what are the social media feeds you see? Those feeds are actually fetched from database using the SQL, NoSQL languages based on the database where feeds are stored, right? Uh, the next is functional programming. This is also a subtype of declarative programming, where it is used in different use cases like AI and machine learning. So, in functional programming, the function is independent. Like you just call that function and you will get the data. For example, AI and machine learning, you just feed the data to that method, it will generate the machine learning models for you, right? Parallel computing, because functions run independently, so it can be used in parallel computing, large data processing, where in a Scala you just say read the data from this file, right? It will read it independently, the blocks of the file, using the Scala functions like read, spark.read, and all those things, right? Game development, large data processing. So here, right, in functional programming, we treat everything as a function. So this is different from procedural programming, right? In procedural programming, you define the step as a function. Here you just are executing that function from outside, right? Not that exact function, but the function who has very complex logic behind the scene, which we don't need to worry about. We just need to call that function, right? So the function just takes the input, does its job, and gives the output without changing anything else, right? So instead of step-by-step instruction, we focus on what needs to be done using functions, right? Like Scala functions, lambdas, Python MapReduce, which are used for large data processing, where you just give the data, input the data, and all that processing will happen in the back end. That complexity is hidden, and you will just get the output. The next programming paradigm, this is also subtype of declarative programming, where it is it will have some rules and facts defined, and based on those rules and facts, system will figure out the answer. So Prolog and Lisp are the programming languages which follow this kind of a paradigm, logic programming. So for example, let's say you are using ChatGPT, right? Now, when you interact with the ChatGPT or any chatbots, they will have some rules or facts defined, facts based on some data, and rules defined in the backend, so that whatever your query you are typing, based on those rules and facts, the results will be shown to you, right? Medical diagnosis system, let's say if you insert the medical records, like, and it will have some rules to define the result. For example, if you put the person has a fever and a cough, then the system might say the person might have flu, right? uh, Fraud detection in banking. So banking also implements these rules and facts in the backend, so that if any rule which is defined is getting violated, then it detects or treats it as a fraud, right? So these are the some of the use cases where logic programming is used, right? There are many more programming paradigms, but these are the main programming paradigms which we discussed, and this will help you as a base when we actually start on going into much more detail into the object-oriented programming concepts in the next videos. Hope you understood the explanation and details. Thank you.
Hope you understood the explanation about what is programming and the different programming paradigms and their use cases. This will be useful for understanding the object-oriented programming paradigm in detail in upcoming videos. If you like the video, please share and subscribe. Thank you so much.